Right, so as a wise man or woman once said, if you're smart, do a job right or do it twice. So you can draw your own conclusions, because 1 month after I put the chain and sprockets on this, I'm doing it again. Nothing wrong with the chain, but when I put the soft link on, it went on crooked the first time, and I pulled it off and put it back on, but I wasn't happy because obviously it wasn't right, and there's a lot of torque and pressure and energy that goes through these chains, and I've seen a couple fail. At best it wraps around, or at best it ends up in somebody else's grill who's following you. It can wrap around the rear axle and cause you to come off, or it can snap and it can punch a hole in your engine casing. So I bought myself a new soft link with the grease and everything. And the other reason for doing the job again is when I changed it, these nuts are single use only, because they've got this like a lock-in tab on them, and the manual calls for a certain type of Loctite, and it was on order, it kept on getting cancelled, obsolete stock and everything else like that. So I put the old nut back on with some Loctite, with the intention of when I got the right Loctite, I'd remove it and put it back on. However, the Loctite that the manual calls for, I can't get anywhere unless I ship it in from the States at over like 200 quid. So I've got the new nut, and as I say, single use only because of these locking tabs on it. It does actually come with what looks like Loctite in it. I've spoken to a Suzuki dealer and they reckon new nut and this type of thread lock, and it's all good. So as you can see, I've got the old wheel, the back wheel off. I've put the old chain back on because I wouldn't want to damage it when I was damaging the new chain when I was putting it. So what I've done is I've put the old chain back on and locked it off with a couple of bolts and a couple of screwdrivers. Put 32mm socket on there, and with the aid of a massive great big breaker bar, that's coming undone. So job's on, replacing that, the locking nut, put the chain back on, re-rivet it. Got one of these Link Monkey chain breakers. That was a really good bit of kit. It got that old soft link off, no problem. Rivet the new soft link on, and she's good to go. Right, so that's the new nut on with Loctite and torqued up to 115 Newton meters. If anybody needs to know what it is, it needs to be torqued up to 115 Newton meters. So I'll get the old chain back off, new chain back on, and we're good to go. Right, so that's new soft link, and I'm pressing that open face one on. What you want to be really careful about is that you make sure that you don't push it on too far, because that way you'll have a tight link and it will just wear, and you may as well you've wasted your time. So the average of these links is 19.15, so it's just very, very carefully, quarter of a turn at a time, with the called in link pressing on mode, whatever it's called. Just keep on teasing it on and make sure you don't go too far. Measure twice, etc. Cut once. So that's the new soft link plate pressed on to 19.13, which is the average of the links around it. So we'll call that tight enough. So that's the new rivet, the new soft link riveted on. All it needs to do now, put this back together. We're good to go. Right, so whenever you've got the front sprocket cover off, it's always a good idea to take the push rod out, give it clean, and then put some red rubber grease on it, because if that oil seal goes, you'll get engine oil pissing out of there all over your chain, which does your train good, some good, but not so much the engine. Right, so when you're fitting the master, refitting the master cylinder, we took it off. When you take it off, make sure you cable tie the clutch lever back to the handlebars. And then when you're putting it back on, you put it back on, you nip it up, and then when it's nipped up, you disconnect the cable tie, and then very equally tighten up both bolts. And remember, the long one goes at the top. The long one is the one with the collar. Right. So now they're nipped up hand tight. Release the clutch. And then it's putting it in, making sure it goes down equally. Also making sure, I don't know if you can see that, but that little peg goes in the hole. And these guys are torqued up to 10 Newton meters. The 10mm bolt is 18. And the brake pad mounting pin is 16. That's a bit tight. And finally, rear axle nut if you need it, 100 Newton meters. There we have it. New front sprocket, nut, new soft link. Hopefully all sorted now for the TT Adventure Bike Festival and whatever else comes our way this year. Cheers out.